Tzong.
All right. Let us put our palms together and recite. Homage to the fundamental teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni. Homage to the fundamental teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni. Homage to the fundamental teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni. Verses of opening of the Dharma. The unsurpassable, profound, and wondrous Dharma is difficult to encounter even in hundreds of millions of kalpas. Now I see it, hear it, receive it, and uphold it. I vow to understand the true meaning of the Tathagata. All right. Welcome, everyone. Just to show you what Notebook LM gave me a mind map of chapter 3. So we started talking about the Dharma common to the 5 vehicles, which is on the book The Path to Buddhahood. And we did cover already the significance and foundation, right, of the Dharma. In particular, talking about the right conviction in the Triple Gem. And then we kind of touch on the 2 aspects of the practice that we should start with, right livelihood and right view, right? And then, so if you look at the content, right? So we mentioned that last time. And then this, right view, right livelihood, right? And today we'll move right into, we already covered right livelihood, and today we will talk about right view, the 4 categories of understanding, and which is knowing or understanding or discerning evil and good and evil, discerning karma and consequence, discerning past and future lives, and discerning ordinary and noble people, right? And this is what we're going to start to cover today, right here. It's very clear from this mind map. Okay, moving on. The existence of good and evil also can be translated as wholesome and unwholesome. Stanza 31. Pure or impure intention, benefit to others or harm to others, a good act or a bad act, the heirs of the Buddha must observe all this with attention. Explanation. The mundane or worldly right views taught by the Buddha are described in the sutras through certain phrases and can be simply divided into 4 categories. Okay. Number 1, the right view on good and evil. Have a firm conviction that our mental actions can be good or bad, that is, ethical or unethical. The right views of the Buddha Dharma start from the fact that there is an ethical law in the world and the transcendental. If there is a resolute denial of ethics, then this is called wrong view, such as those held by the 6 heterodox non-Buddhist teachers during ancient India, the skeptics, hedonistic materialists, lokayatas, etc. And they all existed during the Buddha's time. And the Buddha would cite their wrong views and explain how it goes how the wrong views do not acknowledge the existence of good and evil, right? And nowadays, well, on YouTube, uh, Red Notebook, TikTok, whatever, there are a lot of people out there saying, what I consider right or wrong, good may not be considered right or good to you. What I consider evil or wrong may not be the case from your perspective. And since there's so many people in this world and everyone has their own beliefs or understanding of good and evil, therefore, there is no true good or true evil. That's the wrong view that is held by most people. In a sense, they think as long as I'm alive, anything goes. I'm the king. I'm the queen. There's no good and evil. It's all in your perspective. Really? If there's no good and evil, then there's no cause and effect. There's no cause and effect. Everything would be random. No actions needs to be held accountable, and nobody needs to be responsible for anything. Really? Is that what you really think? I hope not. So according to the Buddha, to establish right view, number one, you need to have right view on good and evil. And let's go into the clear definition of what is good and evil. Okay, so from the perspective of the mind, from the standpoint of the mind, pure intention belongs to the good. Pure intention. And impure intention belongs to the evil. In our minds, impure factors such as irritation and disturbance, all sorts of afflictions constantly arise. All the voices in our heads telling us to do this, that, just out of thin air. It's always in your head, in your mind, there's always voices. And usually they are more impure factors, voices, filled with afflictions related to our greed, our hatred, or ignorance. If no contaminated afflictions arise in the mind, and instead the pure factors will arise, and then this belongs to the good. So what is good and evil related to or defined by? Number one is defined by their perspective of the mind, the pure, the intention, right? So the intention that has greed, hatred, and ignorance, it's impure. Intentions that are related to less greed or no greed, no anger, and no ignorance, and that is pure. So examples include without greed, without anger, and without ignorance, which are the opposite of greed, anger, and ignorance. Revering the virtue of good, such as qualities such as remorse or moral shame, and resisting the violence of evil, moral dread, the fear of wrongdoing is the same thing. I'm just giving you synonyms. And then these two are in Chinese will be Chan and Kui. And in the Pali will be Hiri and Ottappa. These two qualities, and as one of my teachers, Bhikkhu Bodhi, would translate, he calls it remorse and moral dread. These two, Hiri and Ottappa. This is what the Buddha said, what distinguishes humans from animals. Animals do not feel remorse to the extent of a human. Animals do not feel moral dread like humans. So if a human being does not feel remorse, or also translated as moral shame, nor they feel moral dread or the fear of wrongdoing, then they are in a human body with it acting like animal or thinking like animal, which is very common nowadays, by the way. So conviction that pacifies and purifies the mind, meaning conviction, meaning right faith, right? And that can pacify, calm, and purify the mind. Okay, that's good quality. The realization of diligence that stops evil and promotes good. All these factors are pure and belong to good. Okay, so Master Yinshun just listed some factors, mental factors, that are related to good, right? And if you study the Abhidharma and all the commentaries, like Buddhist psychology, then you will know all the various so-called wholesome factors, wholesome mental factors, right? And I won't go into detail in each and every one, but you need to know that human beings are we distinguish ourselves from animals in that we feel remorse and moral dread. And that's very important. Conversely, factors such as greed, anger, or hatred and ignorance, lack of remorse and moral dread, lack of conviction, being indolent, lazy, all are impure and belong to evil. Okay, so this is from the perspective of the mind, pure intention or impure intention, right? Good, evil, right? Now, that's, so the intention part is criteria number one. What's the second one? And there are only two. From the influence of view on behaviors that affect others, okay? Behaviors that benefit others belong to the good. Those that harm others belong to evil, right? So given the intention in your mind, and then you carry out actions, and that action, if it benefit others or harm others, right? People with people and with other beings, meaning beings in other realms, are all interrelated. So we must help and mutually cooperate, following the law of harmonious coexistence. If an act harms others, even if it benefits oneself, that act is wrong and should not be done. If an act benefits others but may harm us, such an act is still good and should be done. Okay, so this is in a general sense. Okay, in general. Okay. But the harm, let's explore this just a little bit more, right? If an act harms others, even if it benefits oneself, and that's easy to cite examples, right? You take advantage of others, whether their resources, their time, You treat them like fools, and then you benefit from that. That act definitely is wrong and should not be done. But what if an act benefits others but may harm us, right? And here I would add, may harm us in the short term, right? Why? Because an act that we do that benefits others, for sure, in the long run will always benefit us in the long run. Temporarily, in the short term, maybe we might feel that you're helping somebody with resources, with your time. Yeah, you lost time, and then you were generous with your time. You donated your time. You donated your resources. But always, in the long run, you will reap the benefit. And remember, the benefit may not come from the person or the beings that you helped. It will come from others. It can come from other sources. Okay. And here, bear in mind, when we say harm, we're talking about harming majority or minority, harming lots of people or harming one person, or benefit a whole society or benefit one person, or benefit people that I don't know, or benefit people that I care about, or benefit people that I don't care about, I even hate, or harm people that I don't know or that I hate. All these factors are important when considering the scope of the good and evil, right? So here, at least lists two things. What is good and evil? Pure intention that benefit others, especially in the long run, definitely is good. Impure intention that harms others, short term and long run, definitely is evil. So on one side you have good, like pure good, and the other side you have pure evil. And in the middle there's this spectrum, infinite possibilities of intention versus benefit or harm. You need to keep in mind. Because the question that I'll pose to you right now, which I'll answer myself, I always answer myself in my lectures. The question I will pose to you is that, is it possible to do pure good, pure good? Or is it possible to do all pure evil, right? An act. Or is it possible to have a purely good, pure good person, or pure evil person? Okay, so I'll throw it out there. I'll give you the answer later. Be patient. Continuing. From internal intention and external effect causes a cause to others, the difference between a good act and a bad act is determined. Right? So you consider two things. What's my intention? And now I'm talking about examining our own acts. What is my intention, or what was my intention, or what has been my intention all this time? And then this act will benefit or harm others. Just these two very simple questions. Now, actions are activities. Mental activities are called mental actions. Bodily activities are called bodily actions. Verbal activities are called verbal actions. In all of them, there is good and evil. So we talk about good actions and bad actions. All this must be observed with attention by the disciples of the Buddha, or by so-called the heirs of the Buddha's endeavors. All of us who are on this journey, especially those who have taken refuge in the Triple Gem and are maintaining the precepts, right? We are all heirs of the Buddha's endeavors, meaning whatever the Buddha did and is doing on this path to Buddhahood, we need to do. We need to learn them because we are the true heirs. We must not only have true conviction about the existence of good and evil, but we must also distinguish between what is good and what is bad or evil, establishing a firm and unwavering right view as a criterion for our intentions and actions. So let me answer. Who or what type of person would have pure intentions? So basically the noble one. The noble ones that have cut off their afflictions, meaning no greed, they have no greed, no hatred, and no ignorance, they can have definitely pure intentions. The benefiting others part is difficult because to benefit all beings, not leaving one behind, it's unrealistic. So the benefit to others, basically we're talking about from a general sense, as the intention is to benefit. Now, whether the beings, they receive the benefit or not, it all depends on their own effort also, right? But it needs to be factored in. The kind of benefit, the scope, the magnitude of the benefit to others, or versus the harm to others. So a noble one will not have an intention, an impure intention that is affected by greed because they have no greed, they have no hatred, they have no ignorance. So their intentions are pure. And if their intentions are pure, would that act that they carry out benefit others? Well, it depends a lot on their skillful means, their wisdom, because they need to be able to observe the recipient of this act or the beings affected by their pure intention and that act and determine the greatest amount of benefit that they can bring to the beings. But the idea of all beings receiving benefit, especially due to an act, like a very specific act, especially physical act, that's very difficult. However, for a noble one who practices loving kindness, of course, that is their loving kindness, immeasurable loving kindness, is coming from the place of purity, pure intention, and all beings will benefit. But how much? Depending on how open their minds are. Okay, so this is just to give you an idea. So that's why the distinction between a noble one versus an ordinary person is very important. To have pure intention, you cannot be affected by, in any way, a hint of greed, hatred, nor ignorance. And impure, it's anything less than that, it's considered already on the impure side, in that spectrum, right? And benefiting many beings versus few beings, depending on their skillful means also. And of course, there's a lot more discussion that can be had on this good and evil. But basically, you need to believe or establish this view, right view, and having a right definition of good and evil in order to start. Otherwise, there is nothing, there is no basis to construct cause and effect. I often hear people talk about, we have to believe in cause and effect. But believe in cause and effect, what? What part of, what is cause and effect? And it starts with the definition of good and evil. The discernment of what is good, what is evil. And there's only two criteria. What are they? Intention versus effect on beings. It could be benefit or harm. And now let's move into the second category, second aspect of right view. The existence of karma, which means also translated as action, and vipāka, consequence or result. Stanza 32. Vipāka definitely comes from karma. Karma can change from minute to great. Here, this particular word is not minute, it's minute, small to great. It can guide or it can fulfill. It can be determined or undetermined. With vipāka in the present, at rebirth, and in the future, no karma is lost or destroyed. Okay, this is the stanza. Let's go to the explanation. The right view on the existence of karma and vipāka, consequence. Except for people with wrong views, most people believe in the existence of good and evil. I don't know. That's what Master Yinshun thought. I don't know about that. In the 21st century, I really doubt many people believe in the existence of good and evil. Yeah, good is what's good for me. Evil is what's not good for me. Right? That's what most people define good and evil. However, good and evil, from the value of actions, each receives its deserved consequences, meaning action, reaction, or consequence. There is a direct relationship. If there is no firm view on this, under some circumstances, the conviction in good and evil will be shaken. Meaning, if you think that if you do good, it may not pay, or you do evil, you don't have to pay necessarily. You don't have the conviction in that good and evil as manifested in actions surely will take form, then your conviction in good and evil will be shaken. That's why, apart from knowing good and evil, like clearly defined understanding, you need to understand that every action will lead to a consequence, right? It could be now, this lifetime, it could be next lifetime, it could be future lifetimes, but surely it will. All vipāka of all sentient beings definitely come from the force of karma. Okay, so here it's explaining karma, action, as a force, right? Having karma, there will be vipāka, consequence. Alternative translations or usage synonyms: consequence, result, reward, retribution, later. Due to the many different types of karma, there are diverse consequences. There are many types and complexities of karma. So the consequences are also extremely diverse and complex, right? And I've got this idea since 2022 with ChatGPT. I thought it's actually possible that we train AI, given all the things that we know, we input in through question or in questionnaires, like all the laws of karma and consequence, the right view, and then AI can actually predict a possible trend, things that you may encounter, right? Because AI can actually deal with many ideas, many data, and then spit out, based on the rule of a cause and effect, spit out something that we can consider. But that is to be developed. What is karma? What is consequence? So let's go into the definition, okay? So karma is what? Is activity, is action. The action of our mind, body, and speech. That is, all actions driven by mental force, the force of will, are karma, right? And then not long ago, people asked you, people saw this talk online, and then someone asked me, Shifu, so is there free will or is there not free will? I think some of you might have heard or seen the video, right? So, meaning that can you choose? Can we choose? Of course we can choose. But how are we choosing? And then that's another lecture. But the force of will, meaning what you, and how you're deciding, how you're speaking, how you're acting, that's karma. Of course we are doing it. Now, you can say, yeah, but is doing out of habit doing? Yes. How come you don't slap yourself every day? How come you don't slap yourself silly when you say the wrong thing? Because you don't want to hurt. I don't see any people developing a habit of slapping themselves because it hurts. So usually our habits are things that make us more comfortable and possibly make other people uncomfortable or make other people suffer. Usually our habits are to make our lives easier. Think about it. Well, maybe not in the long run, but then but in the short run, our habits are usually coming out of saving time, saving energy, just providing more comfort to oneself. But it's still a choice. So the force of will, that's karma. But what we refer to now is this specific force, karmic force, induced by the good or bad conduct from our bodily, verbal, and mental actions. This force defines the value of morality or immorality. The endeavors that produce good or evil can be analogous to the physical labor of farmers. The karmic force is like the monetary value acquired through labor activity. The money earned from work, which represents the value of the labor activity, can be exchanged for appropriate supplies, food, drink, etc. Therefore, a certain type of karmic force results in a certain type of consequence, depending on that type or which type of karmic force. And that's why in order to understand karma, we need to understand the different types of karma and how different types of karma will bring about different kinds of consequences. Because every action has a consequence. Okay, so that's here determined what is karma, and then now regarding vipāka, consequence. Its precise meaning is maturation, to mature, maturation of a different kind. In the system of cause and effect, this pertains to the kind of cause and effect where the cause and the effect are not of the same type. For example, by doing good, one obtains the happiness of the celestial realm. And by doing evil, one obtains the suffering of the infernal realm. Depending on the karmic force produced, it will result in a consequence of suffering or happiness. And this is an important aspect of the right view. Only in this way do good and evil have definitive values. So basically, okay, you can say, I recognize there's good and there's evil. Yet, actions related to good does not bring about good consequence, then what's the point? And if actions related to evil do not bring suffering or bad consequences, then it's okay. That's why knowing good and evil is not enough. You need to understand that karma, every action related to good and evil, already in itself produce a karmic force that will lead to certain consequences. So, on the meaning of karma and vipāka, some important points should be briefly explained. And this is what I would say that Master Yinshun, he's listing rule number 1 for like karmic rule, karma and consequence, like as rules, right? Observations. And all these are drawn from the sutras and Abhidharma. A minute, small karmic force can transform into a great one. This is a statement. Okay. The explanation is this means that a small action, good or bad, if produced continuously, will accumulate and become a much greater karmic force. As stated in the Dhammapada, do not disregard small deeds, thinking they are harmless. They are like drops of water that, although small, gradually fill a large container. The same applies to good deeds. And then I think all of you know about this great simile of the crack in a dam. Why do they put so many sensors around a dam? Because one little crack in a dam, because behind the dam, there's a lot of force, a lot of water, amount of water that is being stopped. And then if there's a little crack, and then you just go, it's okay, I'll just patch it up. It doesn't matter. That crack will grow. And eventually, from a small crack, the entire dam will be destroyed, will burst, literally. A small drop of water, even though small, it can slowly fill a large container. And there's another visual image that you can actually work on. Like imagine that drop of water and it's dropping down on this rock, and it just year after year for millions of years. What will happen? It will wear down the rock underneath, it will bore through. An old Chinese proverb has the same meaning. Do not do evil just because it is small. Do not neglect good just because it is small. So do not do because it's small. It's okay. It's just a small lie. It's just a small facial expression. I was bothered, but not that much. Like you think you allow yourself to do evil, even though because you think that this does not affect anybody or nobody saw it. And then as far as helping someone or something, a good action, you neglect it. You don't do it because, that is too small. Yeah, someone else will do it. I don't have to do it. Then you lose your opportunity, right? First, you allow yourself the opportunity to do evil, small evil, and you neglect, you abandon, you don't appreciate the small opportunity, the opportunity to do the small goods. Moreover, if we create bad actions to harm others, which initially were not serious, but if we constantly feel that the harm was clever and satisfactory, oh boy, I really did a number, and that person doesn't even know. I scammed them. I took advantage of them, and then feeling clever and satisfactory, and thus uninterruptedly rejoice in our bad behavior, bad actions. Then the force of the small evil will increase until it becomes a great evil. Similarly, even if they are small good deeds, if we can constantly feel joy, a smile, a good morning, a thank you, a would you please, kind words, kind gestures, then a small goodness will also gradually become a great goodness. Therefore, we should not neglect minor karma, nor should we rejoice in bad karma, and we should rejoice in good karma. Okay, so a small karmic force can transform into a great one. That's rule number 1. Next, another rule of karma. Among the many types of karma, there is a category of particularly strong karmic force that can guide us to receive a retribution body in one of the 5 destinies. whether by being reborn in the celestial realms or falling into the realms of hell or animal. Within this animal realm, there are also many types of categories, such as being reborn as a tiger, a fish, etc. The strong karma that leads to rebirth in some destiny, resulting in a total retribution body, the obtaining of aggregates, senses, and elements. And that is called guiding karma. Strong karmic force that guide us at the time of after death and guide the consciousness into taking another birth in the corresponding realm. And that is called guiding karma. There's also a type of karma that cannot lead to obtaining a total retribution body in samsara, but that can affect various aspects of the retribution body and determine the obtaining of that fulfillment. This karma is called fulfilling karma. So these two are related. Okay. So guiding karma, it's the type of karma that determines which realm you'll be reborn in. But once you're reborn in that realm, whether human, celestial, or in the evil realms as hungry ghost, animal, and hell realm, then the fulfilling karma will determine how much merits, how many resources, your conditions in that realm, guiding and fulfilling. Okay, so he goes into examples and of these two. For example, if one is reborn human, even though there are thousands of differences, all are equally human. If you're born as a human with the quality, the appearance of a human, yes, you are called a human. And the human rebirth is the total retribution resulting from such guiding karma. The rest, such as the six senses, right? The faculties, it can be complete or incomplete. Appearances can be beautiful or ugly. Skin color can be dark or light. Eyes can be bright or dull. The sound of the voice can be elegant or vulgar, loud and clear or low and hoarse. Your eye, ear, nose, tongue, touch, body, your senses. All these types of differences of each person are due to differences in fulfilling karma and its consequences. However, among these types, there are still differences in consequences and abilities due to their maintenance. So what does that mean? So you are endowed with such senses. And what do? You're so healthy, you never get sick, and then you binge drink. You drinking alcohol because you don't get drunk. You think. And then you think that your kidney or your liver can handle that your entire life. You just drink. Drink your life away. Or you smoke because it's cool. And because you think you have a superhuman lung. Everything that I breathe out, I spit out all the impurities of the cigarette. I'm sorry, I know these kind of people. Drinking, smoking, and they're puffing away marijuana thinking, yeah, this relaxes me, and not knowing the effect of marijuana in their body and their mind. So that's called poor maintenance. That's called destructive use of your senses. So that's bad maintenance versus good maintenance, responsible maintenance, or smart maintenance of the body. Of course, it's going to last longer, healthier. So for example, human vision has a certain limitation in range and varies from person to person. This is karmic force. Through medicine, diet, care, training, one can reach the maximum limit or have good vision even in old age. And all this is thanks to the maintenance of ability of vision in this life, right? So one thing I remember when I was, I guess, 7 or 8 years old, my mom said, use eye drop. When you wake up, use eye drop. And then at night, before you go to sleep, use eye drop. So I remember for many, many years, I never had was nearsighted, and then my eye, when it gets dry, I would put eye drop. And still today, I do it, and eyes crystal clear, just like my mom, Amy. So that's like a maintenance, a trick passed down by your parents or your teachers or things that you read, right? But if you don't take care of your eyesight, your senses, of course, you're fulfilling karma. It doesn't matter how good it is and how well endowed in this life after you're born, and if you don't take care of it, they will wear out. And trust me, after 45 years old, you know what its downhill feels like. Okay, so third rule. Karma also has two other categories: determined or undetermined, differing both in relation to time and consequence. So what this means that time, when the karma, when it will come to fruition as consequence, time can be determined at the time of the action, or it can still be undetermined. And the consequence, when an action happens, a karma happens, it can be a consequence determined or consequence undetermined, right? When there are gray areas. So some karmas have vipākas that are determined. And in here, Master Yinshun cites the strongest kind of karma, right? But their time, whether they occur in this life or next, is undetermined, right? For other karmas, the time is determined, but the type of consequence is undetermined. So, in fact, most karma, most actions that we produce are more, in time and consequence, is more like undetermined. But in some cases, both consequence and time are determined. For example, the 5 karmas leading to uninterrupted hell, avicii hell. Uninterrupted meaning once you're reborn in that hell, you will suffer till you die. The wind blows, you come to life again, and you continue suffering psychologically, and then just keeps going for one entire kalpa. Uninterrupted. There is no time for you to just, okay, break time. No, there's no break time. It's uninterrupted. That's why it's called avicii hell. And there are 5 karmas, 5 actions that lead to that. Patricide. Okay, most people don't know this term. Patricide means killing. It's come from the word side, means to kill. So suicide is when you kill yourself. Patricide when you kill your father. Matricide when you kill your mother. Right? Killing arahats, like liberated ones, or shedding the blood of a Buddha, trying to harm a Buddha, and destroying harmony in the Sangha, like saying gossip, divisive talks, and trying to break up the Sangha, right? These 5 types of actions definitely will lead to uninterrupted hell, which is a determined consequence, and the time will be immediately after death. After death, in the next life, they will fall into the avicii hell, the uninterrupted hell, right? So this is one extreme, like an extreme example that Master Yinshun cites, that how it is completely determined in time and consequence. And in other cases, which is most cases, right? Both time and consequence are undetermined. Mostly the light karmas, light actions, right? According to the ancient sages, all karma is undetermined. That's a very powerful statement. And that is in accordance with what? With impermanence. All karma, listen, all karma is undetermined, meaning Karma meaning it's already an act done. It's already done. It's in the past. It could be distant past, it could be a close past, but then it's undetermined. All. In other words, all karma has the possibility of being improved. Improved in the sense that if it's good karma, it can magnify in its goodness, its influence. And if it's bad karma, has a possibility of being reduced in its so-called suffering consequence. Okay. So therefore, with a strong determination, there is hope that all bad karmas can be alleviated and undetermined. And this is cited in the Salt Analogy Sutra, which explains that if someone commits a grave bad karma, it only needs enough time. And then the key is, it needs enough time to be altered. If old age and death are near, this will become difficult. But according to the Amitayur Jnana Sutra, Kwan Wuliang Shou Jing, there is still the method of reciting the name of Buddha Amitabha as an alternative. Right? So this is talking about like grave bad karma. Someone, and if I have to give an example, well, I know in Taiwan there was a great master, not naming names. He was a great general during the Second World War. And then he was a very ethical general in the sense that when he went into battle and then the enemy already surrendered, he will not cause harm to them, right? He would actually allow them to become prisoners. But what he did from village to village is, in order to feed the army, he would ask the villagers to bring in all the sheep, cow, all the animals, domesticated animals, so that they can slaughter the animals as food for the soldiers, right? And then at the time of his death, and of course he then retired, as a general, and then he actually became a monk, and he repented, he practiced, and then he was able to redeem himself. But even like that, at the time of his death, and he said to his close friend, and I know his close friend, an older monk, and without naming name, he said, I see all these consciousnesses lined up in front of me. And then the friend said, you have repented enough. They are just here to see you off. Send them loving kindness and don't be scared. Yeah. So he spent an entire lifetime, what is left, to repent, to practice, and also to redeem himself, right? So time is very important of essence if you want to alter something. So it's trying to say that if the karma is very strong, then it needs time to change. It's almost like a big ship. It's about to crash into an iceberg. But if you have enough time, you spot the iceberg from far enough, then you can start changing course and you can avoid the iceberg. But of course, that avoidance is temporarily, by the way, because another rule of the karma, which will later says, whatever karma produce, it will definitely get its consequence, right? But it's just not the ship sinking type of consequence that can actually make you fall into the lower realms. Okay, so with firm determination, cultivating the body, meaning in your demeanor, in your purity, practicing discipline, cultivating the mind, concentration, meditation, and developing wisdom. Grave karma, serious karma, can transform into indeterminate or light consequence. Okay, this is analogous to pouring large amounts of salt into a vast river. Thus, the water will not become salty. Okay, so I just want to mention, so if it's in this form, undetermined, okay, consequent undetermined, and if you use the adjective form, it will be indeterminate. Okay, that's English. Just to remind you, I did not make a mistake. It's undetermined and indeterminate, right? Okay. Conversely, even if we commit a small transgression without knowing how to cultivate the body, practice discipline, cultivate the mind, and develop wisdom, we will still suffer as a consequence. Okay, so grave karma, with time, you can lessen the blow, reduce its magnitude. But if it's small transgression, but you do nothing about it, you will still suffer the consequence. This is analogous to placing a small amount of salt into a small cup. Thus, the water will become salty. This is strong evidence that karma is indeterminate. Okay, so this is according to the explanation in the Salt Analogy Sutra. So in the Mahayana Dharma, it is contemplated that the nature, this is important now, the nature of karma, the essence of karma, the core, the stuff, the thing of karma is fundamentally sunya. And grave transgressions can be transformed, repented, and eliminated. And that is the purpose of cultivating wisdom. Therefore, we should not be discouraged by grave bad karma that we might have committed, but we should sincerely and deeply repent and practice the Buddha Dharma diligently. Because knowing that the nature, the essence of karma is fundamentally sunya, we can alter the course towards a better end. We should never allow our mind to fall into determinism. I'm doomed because, and then many people say that, I wish I have come into the Dharma sooner in this life, in order to not have done so much damage in this world so far. Now that I know, I repent, but I feel it's not enough. This is never enough. No. Knowing the nature of karma is fundamentally sunya, you can definitely repent in such way that you purify yourself in that process. And all the transgression that you have committed, that you remember clearly, and the harm that you have caused, the suffering that you have inflicted on beings, can become a great reminder for you to feel a sense of shame or remorse and moral dread of not committing it again, ever. It can be very powerful, that repentance. Repentance is not to become like pessimistic or self-replicating, like self-loathing. No, repenting, it should give us the effect of cleansing. Wow, I acknowledge by the number of thoughts, actions, and words that I speak every day, I probably have hurt beings this life and many other lifetimes before. I repent and I vow to be responsible for my words, my thoughts, and my actions, and practice the Buddha Dharma. I want to go slowly because there's a lot to cover. So we are up to rule number 3 today of karmic rule, right? Let us transfer merits. So we want to transfer merits towards all beings that they can come in contact with the Dharma and understand this wonderful Dharma of right view, mundane right view, understanding good and evil, and understanding karma and consequence. I wish to eradicate the 3 obstructions and all defilements. I wish to attain wisdom and true understanding. I wish that all calamities and obstacles be universally extinguished. I shall constantly practice the Bodhisattva path, life after life. Namo Pho.